Alright, so start things off. You want to check to make sure that your Winds of Magic is at least over 20. You don't want to gamble it if it's over 20 because it'll just lower down, and by the time you move into position, Winds of Magic will be high. I click Control A and click back real quick, that way all the units are kind of out of the way of the front line. And then I start single-handedly selecting the units that I want. You want your meat shields to be in the center with your general close by, that way he can give them leadership and or spellcast. Gonna have your kind of next defensive units on both sides, preferably an equal amount. That's why I have 4 Graveguard, so I can have 2 on each side. They want to be shielded and armored, that way they can soak up a lot of damage from like any heavy hitting units if they have any. You'll notice I pan over, they really don't have any powerful units besides spearmen, but for the sake of the video, still gonna just, just do the same setup. I put I'm going to be setting up my right side, my right flank, to be my strong flank, which is why the Vargwolf is there, as well as 2 units of Crypt Horrors. You'll notice that for the Graveguard with great weapons that have armor piercing damage, I only put 1 on the left hand flank. That's just in case I get bogged down on the right hand side, or there's a unit that just bogs up on the left hand side for them. I can flank around them and hammer anvil. So now that I've kind of got the formation set up where all my infantry units are in the formation that I want, I'm going to go ahead and select them all and put them in the same group and lock it. That way whenever I move forward, they'll maintain formation. You'll notice that I'm choosing not to select the Crypt Horrors because I'm going to be individually microing those. And then I end up changing my mind because the left-hand flank's going to be staying the same. So I'm going to also group those Crypt Horrors on their own. I'm going to group the Blood Knights on their own, and then the Vargeists, I'm going to group them on their own. Now, I initially put them back there, and then I realized, and I remember that Karl Franz is actually on a mounted unit. So because Karl Franz is a powerful general unit, I want to make sure that he doesn't have any like free space to fly. Now, I have a reinforcing army coming in, so I want to walk my first army forward. That way they don't come in range of the artillery or the skirmishers. And that gives me time for my second army to actually get on the field of battle, and then I can start putting them into formation as well. I slow the battle pace down, that way I can individually like pick out the units that need to be in the order, because they're not going to be in the same order as the first army. So notice I instantly hunt for the Skelly warriors, and then I put the general and the Vargwolf side by side, similar to the way I did the first army. And you'll see that I'm using the spacebar to look to see where the army, where my units are going, and then I'm just hunting them out. I'm making the exact same formation as I made the first army. This time, it's, just with a reinforcing army, and I'm not walking any of these guys. These guys are all going to be sprinting. Now, like I said, this is part of the setup. So anytime you begin your battle, you want to make sure that you set up the armies in as ideal a scenario as possible. Now, the reason why I'm not, you may be wondering, like, okay, why am I setting up on the slope? Because I'll be charging uphill. Well, the reality is that I really don't even need this reinforcing army, but they'll do me more help by getting into action sooner, rather than having them run all the way up the hill and all the way to the left-hand side of the flank just to have that. It's not even really an uphill advantage. It's a very slight uphill advantage. It's really not worth the time it would take to run. So now you notice I checked to see the archer's range of fire right there. I highlighted over to see where their red arc was. I did that so that I could make sure that my first army doesn't get within range of their artillery or their skirmisher units. That way they don't take any damage until I decide to engage them. Another thing is I'm actually the attacking army, so the AI is not going to attack me until I attack them. Or rather until I move within range of their skirmishers. So, and they might readjust once they see my second army, but they haven't seen my second army yet, and my spread isn't so wide that they feel threatened enough to like shift over. That's another reason why I do this kind of V formation with my infantry, so that the center is the closest to them, so the AI views that as like, the section that they want to break, because they don't want the center to bust through. And then my flanks are just like really like thick, because I can shift them over and I can spread them out like really quickly. So now that I've got the first army pretty much in position, I'm going to go ahead and get all the powerful units and bring them over to assist from the second army and bring them over to assist. So you'll notice now I took the Blood Knights from the second army and I have them moving up. I'm also going to have the general unit as well as the Vargwolf move up, and then the Crypt Horrors and the Vargeist as well. You'll notice I grouped the Vargeist from the second army into their own individual group. That way I can just hit 4 or 5 and control both Vargeist units. Like I said, that's because Karl Franz is on a flying mount, and he's really powerful. So I want to make sure that he cannot get any free reign in the sky, because if you allow him to just like run around and just constantly cycle charge, he's going to wreck your shit. So like I said, I stopped my troops just a little bit short of the like the archer's fire there. Like you even see I do right there. I actually readjust the group. I select the group and like shift them just a little further backwards. That way they're not within the marksman's range. And the reason I'm still in slow-mo is because I was still, making sure that all of my units were going there. So I went ahead and went in regular mode just so that the rest of the second army could get in position. Reason for this is so that once you select them all and group them, whatever position they are in, once you lock it, that's going to be the formation they try to hold. So you want to make sure they're completely still before you actually group them and then lock the group together. So as you can see, now I'm going to move the bulk of that second army all the way up. And I'm going to go ahead and let them sprint because they're the reinforcing army and none of them are really tired. It's at this point that I think about taking the Crypt Horrors from the second army and moving them up, but I end up changing my mind, and I end up just making sure that I focus on the approaching the first army that's going to be attacking. So now I'm actually looking at the lineup, trying to see where I want to attack. So because the Empire has like really powerful range units and they have them on the front line, I'm actually going to have my skeleton warriors just immediately go up and engage them, and I'm going to use my Vargeists, like I said, to trap Karl Franz and end him. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go ahead and speed it up because I want them to get in position. Because like I said, I don't want to launch my attack until I have all the armies close enough together to reinforce. Also, the majority of the second army is hidden from the Empire, so they're not panicking yet. Like they don't feel a need to relocate and move. So now that I've started back on normal speed, I'm gonna actually start issuing my attack orders. I always go slow motion. That way, there's less delay between attack orders. But like I said, I still want to make sure that the second army is as close in position as possible before I actually engage the enemy. We're like 8 minutes into this, and most of it's just been the setup. Because remember, the kill speed isn't as fast as in the vanilla game, so you really have to make sure that you set up properly, or else you'll end up just forming a mosh pit and you won't get anything done. So now that I'm issuing my attack orders, I'm going to start moving the units forward and try to see what the Empire does as I get within range of the skirmishers. So you'll notice I'm just manually moving them forward, getting them kind of in as up close and personal as I can for the start, and I'm going to walk them because I don't want to waste any energy that they might have. Again, like I talked about the right side being my heavy flank. The entire second army is here, and I'm actually gonna move them further up. Right around there. It's around this point that the Empire starts firing at my skeleton warriors, and I'm gonna start moving out all of my fast-moving units, like my Blood Knights, my Vargeists, and my Crypt Horrors. And it's going to be when I start moving them forward. Okay, so now that the skeleton warriors are being pummeled, and they're being pummeled by quite a hefty amount of troops, I'm actually giving sprint orders to all of the units that are moving forward. That way we can close the distance as quickly as possible. In doing this, it is going to bring my general under fire from some of the stray arrows, as well as my Vargeists, but that's really not a big deal because I'm just going to be sprinting past the enemy lines, just flying over them, waiting to attack Carl Franz. So I'm going to use my Vargwolves to try to tie up the skirmishers, because I don't want the skirmishers to just demolish my front line, because my center is like extremely thin. So like those units have to hold out, and I don't want the skirmishers just demolishing my front line before they get there, before they get within combat. So now that I have those attack orders going on, and I just realized that I forgot to move up my crypt horrors. This is part of maintaining formation right until you get within range to actually flank. So now I'm going to move the Blood Knights that are on my right flank and start moving them out. I'm going to start issuing attack orders for all of my frontline units, and then start spreading out all of the units that are behind. So this V is now going to kind of invert and turn into like wings and collapsing on itself to create the hammer on the anvil. And for the anvil, you'll notice that the Carl Franz, like I said, he has that flying hero. He's going to try to snipe my general right off the bat, because he is a far superior like warrior figure than my general. And I'm gonna immediately overcast Invocation of Nehek, heal up those skeleton warriors. That way I get a little more life out of them. And then this whole time, so you see like there's like 3 pockets of combat that have happened right now because of the V formation, and there's gaps in between those that I can kind of maneuver through if need be. And so now that I have Carl Franz like on the ground, pinned by not only my general but like the first 3 Vargeists, I'm actually going to use the other 3 Vargeists and commit them to targeting Carl Franz. That way he stays on the ground, because like I said, the last thing you want is Carl Franz just constantly flying away and recharging. So as you can see, like I'm moving between these gaps here. Like I don't want the Vargwolf to be completely surrounded, because spears are anti-large, so they can kill the Vargwolf. It'll take them a while, but they'll still do it. So I want to reinforce the Vargwolf as quickly as possible. That way he doesn't lose as much health. Meanwhile, all these fast-moving units that I have on the flank, I'm going to start using them to take on the targets that are being currently uncontested, like the skirmishers and the just rear charge some of the units that are tied down. I'm going to start issuing, I'm still moving the other Blood Knights like further around, that way I can get like a cleaner shot into their skirmishers. And during this time, I'm also going to realize that I can just bring the other Crypt Horror units up and make good use of them. Watching over this, I actually kind of messed up with the right flank. I should have let the Crypt Horrors run in first. That way they could have broken the front line of those spears, and then I could have flanked around with some of the infantry units and just trapped them there. But hindsight's 20/20. As you can see right now, like there's just that mosh pit of Vargeists around Carl Franz right now. Still, the Vargeists and my general are just killing Carl Franz. Like he won't last too much longer, which is perfectly fine. So now I'm going to issue more attack orders since the Blood Knights have finally gotten around into the enemy's rear. I'm going to go ahead and keep those skirmishers from firing freely. Go ahead and hit into the side rear of the halberdiers that are currently chewing up my skeleton warriors. As you can see, Carl Franz is like, he has like less than 500 health left. He's getting completely goon squatted right now. Like he lost 100 health in like 2 hits. Yeah, like he's down to 403. So now I'm going to start issuing, just mopping up the remainder of the forces. Make sure that any units that aren't moving, make sure you like kind of pay attention to them and have them attack something, or at least get in a position to attack. Because anytime you get rear charges off like this, you're going to see units just drop. I mean, we're getting to the back of the Spearman units as well as the Leopard Company units, and it's just glorious. The great swords are anti-infantry and have armor piercing, so even if the units you're attacking have armor, you're just going to shoot right through them with these Graveguard with great weapons. Those 2-handed swords are they're just so handy, and especially if they're trapped on the shields of the Graveguard, like that unit literally has nowhere to go. Both those units are going to get chewed up like really quick. They're actually going to break, and they're going to rout, which is going to make it even easier to kill them. And that's going to be the victory. With Carl Franz dying, his army is going to shatter really quickly, and then obviously to make sure that none of the other units get away, because I don't want the armies to be just roaming on my campaign map freely. I'm going to go ahead and start issuing attack orders on all of the enemy units that are routing and have like a substantial amount of numbers. Like that unit only, like the slower moving melee units, I'm going to just get them after the close ones. The faster moving units, I'm going to get the ones that are further out. So my Crypt Horrors, Vargheists, and Cavalry are going to be the units that I primarily use to chase. So the Spearman unit only had 16. Crossbowmen only had like 18. I'm still going to go ahead and issue an attack order. Those Spearmen, I couldn't see how many they had, but like I said, any unit, like at this point, you want to look at the bottom of your screen where the UI are, where all the unit cards are, and any unit card that's fast moving but doesn't have an arrow or an attack order, you want to just click on them and give them an attack order. What I'm doing right now, though, is while those units are chasing, I'm actually going to centralize my weakest units into the center of the map, and then I'm going to overcast Invocation of Nehek. That way, I can replenish units before the battle is technically finished. Because it just saves on replenishment time on the campaign map. That's really all that it does. So, like I said, issuing attack orders for all of my fast-moving units to finish off the remainder of the enemy. And I can just fast-forward it since most units have an attack order. And I'm just gonna watch the numbers drop. As these units drop down, the units that are doing the attacking also gain more XP, so it's another good reason to try to use those fast-moving units to mop up the routing forces. Yeah, and that's the end of it. Gonna go ahead and end it. Hopefully you kind of got a better grip of the micromanage. As you can see, my Graveguard just did work. My Blood Knights got a lot of kills as well. I only lost 112 units, and most of them were Skeleton Warriors, easily replaced, and I utterly demolished the enemy force. So yeah, gonna replenish, and that's gonna be the end of it. Hope this does it for you.